Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Cake Radio Show. I'm CakeDive. I hope you guys are doing great. And I remember last episode, I recorded the Normani and the Chris Brown episodes back to back. I was like, I'm going to record all the episodes at once. Baby, this has been another week in which I've been so busy with everything else in my life. So I had to hit pause on the third episode recording. And maybe that was for the best because a lot of the girls with the Chris Brown video were saying that I was talking too soft. I needed to project my voice. And the dudes, because there was the men's, they was cooking me a little bit. They was cooking me a little bit in them comments about that. And I know this has been a thing with some of the other videos. Like I might have the volume a little bit too low. So I'm making sure this episode, you're going to be able to hear me, baby. But that being said, I know earlier on I said that I wasn't able to record this third episode all at once with the other episodes. And maybe that was a blessing in disguise because a topic came up during the week that I would love to talk about. And it was what's going on with Amanda Seales right now since she popped up on Club Shay. And everybody's talking about it. And I watched the interview. I also watched a lot of the snippets that started trending on Twitter as well to see, what the discourse is. And I certainly have thoughts. I always got thoughts. Cake has thoughts. So let's dig into it, y'all. So, for those who don't know who Amanda Seales is, she's a multi-hyphenate. Like, if you watch the Club Shay interview, Shannon and Sharpe took a good minute to really list out all the accomplishments that she has done, and I can't list all of them because maybe there's too many. But she is, for a lot of people, she's most famously known for her acting. She starred in Insecure on HBO, and she also starred as a kid in I think My Mother and Me, whatever that show's name is called. And she is also known for being kind of a personality. She hosts she hosts a lot of content and does a lot of events, promoting Black education, Black history, and she's a personality in that sense. She has a lot of thoughts on what's going on in the culture. And this week she decided an interview drop with Shannon Sharpe, who is a sports personality, on his podcast. Well, not his podcast, but his show Club Shay. And with that, I'm a little confused. Off the gate, I'm confused because with Amanda Seales is very intelligent, and it doesn't. She would have critiques about Club Shay, and she does in the interview, as she critiquing Shannon Sharpe and going back and forth with him on different things. So it doesn't in theory, it doesn't make sense for her to be on that show, but when you take a step back and you look at why people are calling on Club Shay, and I guess the cultural presence that it has right now this year, it really does make sense because everyone talks about how 2024 really got heated up when Cat Williams hopped up on Club Shay and started airing everybody out. And you then notice after Cat Williams's, episode went viral and everyone was, losing their mind over it, and a lot of celebrities and a lot of comedians in the space had to start answering to what Cat Williams was saying. Everybody else started hopping on the show. We had Monique hop on and, air out her grievances again about what happened with her and Tyler Perry and Oprah and Lionsgate and the blackballing that went down with that. A bunch of other celebrities have hopped on, but of course Amanda Seales hopped on. And with this episode, there were a lot of very interesting things that went down. First of all, she talked about how she is diagnosed with autism. Now on the show she says she's diagnosed, and you would be when you hear that, you would believe that she was, medically diagnosed. But she turned around and on social media revealed that she self-diagnosed herself, and the reason she did it is she didn't want to spend thousands of dollars on a medical diagnosis, which is interesting because, when she's making money, she's booked. The girls aren't, I think a lot of people are forgetting the process how, successful Amanda is in her space. She has done different award shows. She's done different events. She's doing events right now. She's booked until August with her events right now. You know, she had her acting, so she's still getting a small coin, very small coin, from Insecure and the other shows she's done still. She had a book out that's still selling. She is writing another book that she revealed is coming out next year. There's a lot of things that are going on, so it's not an issue of she bought her mom a house too. Like it's not an issue of finances for her. So her choosing not to get the medical diagnosis and then come on the podcast, not the podcast, I keep saying podcast, but come on the show with and present it as if it was like a formal diagnosis is very odd of her, especially with someone of that caliber who is very educated and knows what to say and how to say it. And the reason she came on the podcast was very evident that she wanted to talk about her feelings about people coming and dragging her, because a lot of people who know Amanda Seales knows that there was a good period of time in which she was being dragged for filth for multiple reasons. She was dragged for filth over how she handled the infamous Black Oscar party, I believe. And a lot of articles came out about saying like, oh, like here's why people don't like Amanda Seales and da 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 da. And I would love to dig into, you know, why I think people don't like Amanda Seales, and, you know, where the disconnect between those who are critiquing her, those who are supporting her, and then Amanda herself, kind of have disconnects between why people don't like her, allegedly. So, you know, there's a lot of, and she kind of goes through that within the interview, and that's kind of what she loves to focus on in the interview. And of course, with Shannon Sharpe, he digs into, you know, the life of, you know, the person on the show and stuff like that. And you read about, like, he talks about the accomplishments that Amanda has had to this point and how successful she is, even during her lowest moments and her weakest points. And as they're going through, you know, her kind of bibliography, going through her like biography, going through her history up until this point. I don't know why I said bibliography, y'all. Bear with me. There's back and forth between her and Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe, and this kind of gets to one of the reasons why I'm confused why she was on Club Shay, because Club Shay, Shannon Sharpe proves through like I haven't seen anything up until I never saw Club Shay up until the Cat Williams episode, but the episodes I've seen after that makes it very evident that he does not have the range to talk about any discourse regarding, you know, colorism, racism, misogynoir. He lacks that range. He does not have the range. And it would be okay if he was, you know, if he like if he tried to stay away from those things, or he tried steering the person away from discussing those topics. It would be one thing if it was something like that and you could clearly tell that he's trying to steer away from that. But the issue is he is going the direction of talking about those things, and everything that he's saying is wrong. An example of this is when we get to the discussion of, you know, Amanda Seales as a kid having sort of a back and forth and having racist experiences as a kid. And Shannon Sharpe, there's one involving her with like other kids who are like, oh, like you don't deserve you're only here because you're black. And then there's an interaction that she had with a teacher who was, you know, going to her parents talking about how she didn't like the fact that, you know, even though Amanda Seales was right on like history topics and different things that were being discussed in her course, she didn't like the fact that she was not respecting her as a teacher, or like talking over her and correcting her. And Shannon Sharpe is like, oh, like, but if you were an adult, like you wouldn't want kids to like correct you and da 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 da. And then with the kids thing, he was like, oh, like, but what if they was just kids? Like, what if they didn't know any better? That shows that he does not have the range, and I don't know why he keeps going to these things, or at least like trying to speak on it. Because it'd be one thing if these things were said and he was just like, okay, on to the next topic, or like tries to divert things like other interviewers would do, who lack that range or do not want to talk about those things. But he's stepping into it, and it's just wrong. So there's the issue. There's issue number one. And during those conversations, I did see that, you know, one of the things that I think people don't like about Amanda Seales is that when she sees that like you're wrong or that you have an issue or that you don't have an understanding of something, she is going to go at it. She is going to be like, but you like, do you not see why you're wrong? Do you not see why this is an issue? And we'll keep kind of poking at it until like it's very painfully evident to those who are, you know, at least understanding of like the range and understanding what's going on, that like this is an issue, like you are wrong. And Shannon Sharpe very clearly did not like that and kept going back at it with her. And again, he did not have the range, so of course he didn't want to talk about those things. So she kept going at it when he clearly didn't want to talk about those things because he don't know shit about shit. But you know, there's neither here or there. They talk about that. They also talk about Insecure, her experiences with Insecure, and some of her other shows that she's been on. And the infamous, as I touched on before, the infamous Oscar party where she was, you know, she was kicked out of the party by Issa Rae's publicist. I think her name is Vanessa. And the situation that went down with that, which involved, you know, her pretty much being like physically attacked by one of the security guards for no reason. And she goes into great detail about her side of the story and, you know, how she moved in that time and how she felt about, you know, the news publications kind of making it a her thing. And she also talked about her, like, really, how she felt about how Issa Rae handled that situation and how Vanessa handled the situation and the stuff that was going on with that. And that is kind of where I want to focus a lot of my thoughts on, because that conversation, as well as another conversation I'll touch on later in the episode, kind of told me everything I wanted to discuss about, you know, why people don't like Amanda Seales. So with the story of the Oscars party, she pretty much revealed, like, she kind of talks about how, you know, she's promoting the party, telling people to go to the party, and she goes to the party. She's not let in. She kind of is about to leave. And one of the people who's at the party is like, oh, like, you're with me? Like, come on in. Like, I don't care what the security guards say. Like, come on in. She's at the party very briefly. The security guards come in, are like, you need to leave. And she's like, why do I need to leave? Who's kicking me out? They don't know. They go ask, and they're like, oh, Vanessa, Issa's publicist, is telling you to leave. And she's like, well, she needs to come and tell me that herself. And then they leave. Security guard comes back and is like, you need to leave. Physically attacks her and drags her out of the Oscars party, pretty much embarrassing her. And then next day, she told Issa Rae the situation. Issa Rae's like, that's none of my business. You need to handle that. You and her need to go handle that. And then she, like, the next day after the Oscars, like, not the next day, but sometime after the Oscars debate, she comes forward and Issa's like, oh, I did hear about what was going on. That sucks. Vanessa wants to talk to you, or you should talk to Vanessa. And Vanessa calls and is like, oh, the reason that the situation at the Oscars party went down was because I don't like you. And Amanda's like, okay, hangs up. Vanessa calls back and is like, do you not want to know why I don't like you? And Amanda's like, no, and hangs up again. And then Vanessa allegedly started kind of doing a smear campaign against her and saying different things happened at the party. And then the news articles and the drama pages and the T-blog started a blogger, a journalist, same shit. Like, the blogger started talking about, you know, her negatively, and then the whole debacle stuff opened up. And during the conversation, it was made very clear to me that, like, she was not seeing where she went wrong in the situation. Now, don't get me wrong. What went down at the Oscars party and the stuff that happened afterwards was unfortunate, and she did not deserve to go through that at all. Like, being attacked by that security guard was uncalled for. The security guard should have never done that. Vanessa blocking her, like, just purely hating her and being very catty and mean girlish about the situation is unprofessional, and it is so stupid. Like, she very clearly needs to get together, but again, that's her business, and that's how she is moving as a grown adult. And I'll talk about the Easter egg of it all later, but Amanda doesn't talk about the, like, she kind of, when she talks about it, she kind of discusses it in the angle of like, oh, I'm in the right in this situation, like I shouldn't have been treated like this, and she's right. But there is the other side of things in which she shouldn't have went into that party after being like after it was very clear to her that she is not allowed in. The fact that she was like, oh, like, can you check it? Like, she pushed on it and then like was about to leave and then went in, and she still kind of like held up and was like, oh, like, she was kind of, there's the exchange that happened because she was questioning why she wasn't allowed in. She shouldn't have, like, one, she like obviously shouldn't have gone through that situation, but two, she shouldn't have gone in. Like, she knew that she wasn't allowed in, and she had a feeling as to like why that was the case. But her deciding to ignore all that and just go in is an issue of itself. And it's very like, and it seems to be like a pattern of how she handles herself in different like controversies that she's been in. And Amanda Seales has been in controversies. Like, if you look up Amanda Seales' Wikipedia page, there's a list. There's a controversies page within that, like, subheading within her page. And it's not even everything, because one of the things that people have brought up, and what she brought up in the interview, was how she reacted to Tamir Rice's mother regarding her putting Shaun King on blast, because he was essentially raising funds for the passing of her son and was not really giving that money back. Like, he was raising money for nefarious purposes. And Amanda was like kind of in defense of that and kind of critiquing Tamir Rice's mother for that situation. And that was a controversy in of itself, and a lot of people were turned off by Amanda in that case for how she handled herself, because the optics of that, regardless of how you feel about the situation, the optics of that is just like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're literally critiquing a mother who has lost her son in a devastating way that shouldn't have happened. You're critiquing her because she is critiquing people for raising money on her son's name and it's not coming back to her. Like, the platform, and she was talking about like, oh, Amanda was talking about like, oh, like, how are you going to critique people, like the movement and these platforms that are like supporting and making people aware? But I think that she had the confusion in that moment between social media activism and like actual activism, and which was kind of, I guess it's understandable, because that happened during a time in which the lines were very blurred for people, and people didn't understand that there were a lot of like, there are people who were doing things for good in the movement. There were real activists on the ground trying to do things to support what was going on and make sure things like this didn't happen. But there were also literal like horrible people who were trying to monopolize and make money off of these things without like a real push forward as to changing a lot of the things that happen in our society against Black people and against, other people of color as well. So she missed the mark on that, and in the interview she actually doubled down on that and was like, oh, like, I don't want to defend Shaun King, but like, she kind of was like, she was defending herself and she thought that she was in the right. And the fact that, again, Shannon Sharpe did not have the range to push back on that and be like, okay, like, why do you think that you were in the right for this? Because, like, let's think about this. He didn't have the range and chose not to push on it. So now everyone's like, she just kind of thought that she was in the right and, like, didn't really acknowledge it in the interview. And people don't want to watch the interview and, like, have a change of mind on her because, again, she failed to acknowledge where she was wrong. And that's one of the other issues. I think with Amanda Seales, one of the other issues that like arises with her is that she doesn't know when to really admit when she's wrong, and when she does apologize, it's kind of a half apology. So for a lot of people, they don't want to take that. They want her to really be like, oh, like, I know I messed up, guys. This is an apology. Like, I'm sincerely sorry to those who I like harmed. and here's what I'm going to do about it. People want like an apology, and she never apologized. She doubled down. So there's that. And then circling back to the Oscar party thing, because I did say that I was going to talk about the Issa Rae of it all. I think that how she talked about how Amanda talked about Issa Rae was very strange. Again, Issa Rae, the way Issa Rae of it all was very strange, because for me, Amanda was kind of, okay, one, Amanda talked about how Issa Rae handled the Oscar party situation. And the way that Issa handled it was kind of mixed. For me, in my opinion, when she was like, oh, like, y'all need to handle that. When she said, y'all need to handle that, that was low-key valid. Because I feel like for a lot of people who don't want to get in business that they're not involved in, and also there's also the dynamic of the fact that, which Amanda was aware about and talked about in the interview, that Issa, even though like that was kind of her friend, she was also her boss, because she was working for her on Insecure. There is the fact that she was just like, oh, like, y'all need to handle it. That's not my business. Y'all need to handle that. And that is kind of valid, because I feel like there's a lot of people in like, outside of the work, in the business perspective, that is a professional way of handling things. For the most part, it's kind of like, okay, you kind of either have to really dig in and be like, okay, like, I'm going to sit y'all both down and like try to get to the bottom of this, because this can't go on a professional manner. Or if you don't foresee it as being like a really bad thing in the moment, which I think Issa didn't think that was going to be a bad thing, and didn't think that was going to continue on for as long as it did. She did what a lot of people would have done and said, y'all need to go handle it. Y'all need to go forward and do what y'all need to do regarding that. And she did kind of push on it a little bit afterwards. She's like, is this going to be a thing? And eventually they sat down and like had the conversation about it, kind of. There's the asterisks of that, because Amanda was not trying to hear why Vanessa didn't like her, which is and then there's also the part in the interview in which Amanda talks about how like there was a show that she had that aired on like Issa Rae Presents' website and YouTube channel, and a lot of people were thinking that it was Issa's show, and Amanda wanted Issa Rae to say like, oh, like, can you correct people on that? And she was like, no. And there's kind of the debate of like, okay, that was kind of strange, but also like it's a lot of gray area with that, because again, it's like, it was Amanda's show, but it was aired on Issa's platform, so there's kind of the questionability of that, you know? And then Amanda's kind of like, oh, like, for the longest time I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to protect Issa, because I know what she means in like the industry and doing things that I don't want to do. And the way she phrased that was very strange, because when you say something like that, it's suggesting that Issa has done something very harmful and like very harmful that would like impact people in the industry if you told anybody about that. And from what we got out of the interview, we haven't really got anything like that. For the most part, it's just kind of like, oh, she may be like a little shady, and like she handles business on a business perspective in ways that isn't right for like the friend perspective that she thought that they had, that the dynamic was. And she talks about how like she felt like she was treated differently on set, and there's things that happen on set, of course, that I'm not going to like shrug off. Like, of course, the thing in which like she had the weird interaction that was pulled because she said the N-word to someone who she thought was cool with. Like, there's things like that in which is kind of like, okay, like, that was strange. You can't shrug that off. Like, I don't know why she was like questioned over that when they're saying it all the time, that word all the time on HBO, on the show. So there's a lot of like question marks. I didn't like how she handled, you know, the commentary and discussion about how her and her dynamic with Issa Rae is. But again, I don't know her. I don't know Issa. I don't know none of them. So of course, like, we only know what we know from how they present themselves online, how they present themselves in videos, and how Amanda presented herself and Issa on the interview. And that was pretty much the big things. It really kind of boils down to, you know, how people feel about Amanda. When it comes to how people feel about Amanda, I feel like for a lot of people, there's the controversies, how she poorly handled and apologized for those controversies. She doesn't own up to herself in terms of, what she does wrong. For the most part, she really doubles down or does half apologies. So there's that aspect. I think there's also the thing that happens in which I think she low key believes and won't acknowledge this, but I feel like she believes that there's some reverse colorism. I think she thinks reverse colorism is a thing, and I think that she believes that she could go farther in the industry if people like gave her props or like gave her more flowers than that she believes that she deserves. And I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve the things, because she has certainly done a lot with her career. I just think that she is right where she needs to be. We also, she's done a lot. And she certainly has gotten a lot of props. Like, she has done BT Awards. She's done a lot of different hosting gigs. She is booked and busy for, this year until August, at least from what we know. So, it would be one thing if she was, in a situation like Monique where she's not really being booked for things. She's not really in these spaces and stuff like that. But for the most part, she is getting these things and she is being booked. She has a fan base who is supporting her. It's just, I think that she wants to be embraced by, the spaces and stuff like that in an industry where people are very, sensitive and people are, people not trying to hear the real thing. She is someone who's going to try to she quote unquote tells it as it is, and she quote unquote doesn't sugarcoat it. And for a lot of people, that does come off as abrasive. That does come off as mean, and people don't know how to react to that, especially in Hollywood. We just saw months ago about how J-Lo kind of made quote unquote allegedly made Ayo and Every cry because of the old interview that they dug up about Ayo talking about how J-Lo can't sing, which was very odd to me because Ayo is right, J-Lo can't sing. Hello. But again, she's in an industry where you really are not allowed to step on people's toes, and if you do, they feel some type of way about it. So I feel like she needs to kind of figure out if she wants to kind of be in a space where she has to be quote unquote fake and move around people just to be welcomed in these spaces, or if she wants to, as she sees it, stand on business and say the things that she wants to say, but only have a very small circle. Does she want to be all of the other bloggers and all the other influencers who are talking about Black culture and talking about Black things, in which they have their allegiances to losers, they have their allegiances to people in these spaces because they still want to be, loved and respected by these celebrities. They still want to be around the celebrities that they love? Or does she want to be someone in a similar vein to where Wendy Williams is at, in which she's going to say what she wants to say, and she does not have a circle of celebrities who support her because, again, she talked about everybody. I feel like she doesn't want to pick a side. She kind of wants to have it both ways, and both with how the industry is and with things that she says. That can't happen. The other thing is, I think one of the other reasons why people don't like her is because of the fact that she which kind of leads to my previous point, she makes it very clear that she sees everything that people are saying. She knows when people are talking trash about her and attacking her, and for her, I think she talks about how she likes putting people on blast, and how she talks about how she feels about these things. And there is a thing that goes on online, especially, in which you really can't say things like that. You can't tell people that you're looking your name up on social media, or that you really feel some type of way about how people talk about you, for better or for worse. Because when you if you do that and you reveal that to people, the haters are going go in on that. They're gonna go hard and be and start attacking you. They're gonna start talking about you on social media more than ever, because they know that you're seeing it, they know that you're interacting with it, and they know that you feel some type of way about it. And with Amanda, I think that also is something that impacts her, because people are talking about, she knows, she talks about how people are talking about her. She posts on Instagram stories talking about how people are talking about her, and it would be one thing if it was just the situation with the Oscars party, and she was talking about the articles, and she was like, "Oh, like this is all just like this all impacted me. This all made me feel some type of way because again, like it." Like she's like, if it was something like that, in which it was purely just the Oscar situation and how the articles handled things and made things worse, there would be some like it would be one thing if it was that, but she's made it clear both before and during this interview that she sees she sees everything. She sees all the critiques. So of course people who like don't like Amanda Seales or like don't talk like the ideas that she likes to talk about, because again, mind you, even if she's wrong sometimes, she talks a lot about a lot of things in which she's in a space. She talks about things that there's a good chunk of people who don't want to hear that. Like, they don't want to be educated. They don't want to learn about those things, and they don't want to take it further. Those who who have the range, and those who want to have the range are willing to engage in what she's saying. And even though like she doesn't really say too much special out of the way, to be honest, like she says what a lot of people think, really, in terms of like the culture and like history and the different discussions that we have. Those who have the range are willing to take it further. Like they're willing to be like, okay, I see where you're going with, and I agree with you with this point, or I don't agree with you this point. Like let's expound on this. But the people who like don't like her, either are people who don't like what she's saying because they don't have the range, they don't have the understanding as to what they're saying, and they just don't care and just refuse to have like to build the range and have the understanding. Or there are people who do have the range, do have the understanding, but she is messed up and said things that should not have been said and that she has failed to atone for. So there's that kind of double-edged sword. And you know, I feel like that's really it. Like, that's all I really can think of. Like, again, it's just kind of like, there's parts of it in which it's like, she has a lot of flowers that she can get. And I feel like, with her being a black woman, like, with the way that this industry moves and the way that society is in terms of colorism and misogyny, of course, for like, unfortunately, like as plain as it's said, like this is as much flowers as she can get with what she's doing in her career. But I feel like if she wants to, she can't really be beloved, unfortunately, because it's kind of like there's going to be a lot of people who are just going to hold the things that she says and the things that she represents against her. But I also think that her kind of feeling that she does not get her flowers or does not get into all the spaces that she can get into is not correct. Like, I just think that she is missing the point on that, and the ball is really in her court, really. Like, if she wants to really be beloved and be in the spaces, she's gonna have to kind of be willing to grease her fingers and be nice. Like, she's gonna have to start, you know, I guess, acting fake and shifting her ideals. But as someone who she very clearly doesn't want to do that, and I don't want her to, honestly. Like, that's how she moves, and I think it would be very telling if she started moving differently. But she also kind of has to, if she wants to still kind of like be in the space where she's at, she does have to learn how to, I guess, apologize and get the crowd who is willing to engage with her and engage with her content, but is not doing that because of the things that she's done in the past, like with the Tamir Rice situation. That's really my thoughts. Let me know. And also, Club Shay, like, Shannon and Sharpe need to wrap the podcast up, because also there's like video that came out afterwards in which like he's sitting with like two other dudes and he's talking about why Amanda Seales is single, and again, like, that touches on how he does not have the range to discuss these things. Because why are you sitting with like black women interacting with this content? Like, why are you sitting with black women who have the range and you don't want to interact with the range, but you're willing to turn around and sit with these two idiots who are very much single, like they not getting no play either, and you're talking about why this woman is single? Like, hello? Like, straight men can be very strange to me, and that's for a whole nother topic. But let me know what your thoughts about the interview. If you've seen the interview, your thoughts on Amanda Seales and why people don't like her, or if you like Amanda Seales, like, why do you think that, you know, what can she do to really kind of shift things in her core, really, because she does seem like she wants to change shake things up. For me, I'm kind of indifferent on her. Like, I respect what she does and respect what she represents, but on the other hand, like, she definitely has her critiques. I have critiques of her for sure. But again, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below if you're listening to this on YouTube, or with the Q&A function if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform. Again, this has been the Cake Radio Show. If you want more episodes, be sure to support on YouTube at Cake Radio Show. Subscribe, like the video, share the video, comment, do all the things. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to follow it, give it a good rating, and yeah, that's it. I've been CakeDive, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.